Welcome back to the channel, Basketball Family. Today, we are staring down the barrel of one of the most chaotic, landscape-altering, and mind-bending off-seasons in recent NBA history. We are standing squarely at the intersection of desperation and ambition, looking at a league that is being torn apart by the new collective bargaining agreement, the dreaded second apron, and the sheer unpredictability of player movement. On one side of the league, we have a franchise utterly paralyzed by fear, terrified of making a financial mistake that could sink them into the abyss of mediocrity for the next decade. On the other side, we have an organization that thrives in the shadows, a front office that smells blood in the water, and is ready to strike with lethal, championship-calibrated precision. I am talking, of course, about the Atlanta Hawks and the Miami Heat. The headlines are screaming, the insiders are working overtime, and the rumors have officially evolved into undeniable reality. The Atlanta Hawks are downright terrified. They are shaking in their boots at the prospect of what Jonathan Kuminga is about to ask for on his next contract. They know the bill is coming due, and they know they simply do not have the stomach or the cap sheet to pay it. And while Atlanta is busy sweating over their spreadsheets, counting their pennies, and contemplating their luxury tax bill, Pat Riley and the Miami Heat have executed an absolute masterstroke. The Miami Heat are getting Trae Young. Yes, you heard that right. The ultimate villain, the maestro of the pick and roll, the man who once silenced Madison Square Garden and took the league by storm, is packing his bags for South Beach. This is not just a standard trade rumor video. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a monumental shift in the balance of power in the Eastern Conference. And to truly understand the gravity of what is happening right now, we have to unpack the explosive news breaking across the wire today. Let us start with the situation brewing in Atlanta. Just a few short months ago, during the chaotic February 2026 trade deadline, the Atlanta Hawks made a massive splash. They acquired Jonathan Kuminga from the Golden State Warriors in a blockbuster deal that sent Kristaps Porzingis to the Bay Area. At the time, it looked like a match made in heaven. Kuminga was desperate for a fresh start, desperate to escape the shadow of Steve Kerr and the rigid, motion-heavy system of the Warriors that he felt was suffocating his immense athletic potential. And for a brief, shining moment, it worked perfectly. Kuminga arrived in Atlanta and immediately became a spark plug off the bench. He brought energy, he brought vertical spacing, and he played a massive role in pushing the Hawks to 46 wins and securing the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference playoffs. He even had incredible flashes of brilliance in the postseason, dropping a combined 40 points in 2 crucial playoff victories against the New York Knicks. He looked like the future. He looked like the athletic, versatile forward that the Hawks have been desperately searching for, pair alongside their emerging core Jalen Johnson and C.J. McCollum. But the honeymoon phase is officially over, and the harsh, unforgiving reality of NBA economics has crashed the party. Jonathan Kuminga is entering the final stage of his contract, and he holds a massive $24.3 million team option for the upcoming 2026 to 2027 season. But here is the massive problem. $24 million is just the beginning. Kuminga and his camp are reportedly seeking a massive, long-term extension that mirrors the demands he made last summer in Golden State. He wants something in the neighborhood of $25 to $30 million annually on a multi-year deal. He wants to be paid like a foundational pillar of the franchise. He wants to be paid like a future all-star, and the Atlanta Hawks are absolutely terrified of giving it to him. Why? Because the advanced analytics and the harsh realities of his actual production paint a very different picture than his raw potential. The Athletic's John Hollinger recently released his highly respected valuation metrics, and the numbers are devastating for Kuminga's camp. Hollinger's formula values Jonathan Kuminga not as a $30 million star, but as a high-end reserve worth approximately $9.4 million a year. That is a gargantuan, unbridgeable canyon between what the player thinks he is worth and what the spreadsheets say he is actually contributing to winning basketball. The Hawks are staring at this discrepancy, and panic has set in the front office. According to league insiders, including Hoops Hype's Michael Scotto, the Hawks have aggressively begun doing their due diligence and gauging Kuminga's value on the trade market ahead of the NBA draft. They are actively shopping a 23-year-old forward who was supposed to be their prize acquisition just months ago, all because they are petrified of the financial commitment. They are considering declining his $24 million team option entirely, risking losing him for absolutely nothing as an unrestricted free agent, simply to avoid being locked into a massive, unmovable contract that could destroy their flexibility under the strict new luxury tax aprons. The fear in Atlanta is palpable. It is a fear of the sunk cost fallacy. It is a fear of committing to a player who is currently sitting as a fourth offensive option on their roster, behind McCollum, behind Johnson, and even behind Nickeil Alexander-Walker. The Hawks are caught in a nightmare scenario where they cannot afford to keep him, but they also cannot afford the optics of letting a former 7th overall pick walk out the door for free. And while Atlanta is suffocating under the weight of their own financial anxiety, the Miami Heat are operating in a completely different stratosphere. Let us shift our focus to the bombshell news regarding Trae Young. To understand this monumental acquisition, we have to rewind to January of 2026, when the Atlanta Hawks originally traded Trae Young to the Washington Wizards. It was supposed to be a new era for Trae, a chance to put up astronomical numbers in the nation's capital. But he played exactly 5 games for the Wizards before injuries and organizational tanking completely derailed his season. Now, Trae Young holds a staggering $48.9 million player option for the upcoming season. The entire league has been waiting with bated breath to see what he would do. The prevailing sentiment just days ago was that the Wizards were going to back up the Brinks truck and re-sign him to a massive 3-year mega deal to keep him in Washington. But Pat Riley had other plans. The Miami Heat have spent the last year meticulously hoarding assets, maintaining cap flexibility, and waiting for a superstar to become available. The entire basketball world thought the Heat were solely focused on Giannis Antetokounmpo. The narrative was that it was Giannis or bust for South Beach. But as the draft approaches and the reality of the Milwaukee Bucks asking price sets in, Pat Riley has executed a legendary pivot. The fallback plan has become the main event. The Miami Heat, recognizing the fading chances of landing the Greek Freak, have swung for the fences and targeted the biggest, most electrifying guard on the market. Trae Young to the Miami Heat is the kind of tectonic shift that completely rewrites the championship formula in the East. Miami looked at their roster. They looked at their elite defense anchored by Bam Adebayo. They looked at the genius of Eric Spoelstra, and they realized they were missing exactly one thing: an elite, game-breaking, half-court offensive engine. They were tired of relying on Tyler Herro to create miracles late in the shot clock. They were tired of their offense grinding to a halt in the fourth quarter of playoff games. They saw Trae Young, a man who has averaged over 25 points and nearly 10 assists for his entire career, sitting in purgatory in Washington, and they decided to strike. The details of the trade package are still being finalized in the back rooms, but make no mistake, Miami is pushing all their chips to the center of the table. We are talking about a combination of Tyler Herro, the promising young big man Kel'el Ware, Jamie Jaquez Jr., and the number 13 overall pick in this year's draft. Miami is emptying the cupboard because they know that pairing Trae Young's offensive wizardry with Bam Adebayo's defensive dominance and screen-setting ability is a recipe for a championship parade down Biscayne Boulevard. So, here we are, standing on the precipice of a completely redesigned NBA landscape. You have the Atlanta Hawks, paralyzed by the fear of overpaying Jonathan Kuminga, frantically try and find a trade partner before the financial guillotine drops. And you have the Miami Heat, abandoning their Giannis dreams to aggressively acquire one of the most polarizing and talented point guards of his generation in Trae Young. These two storylines are deeply interconnected by the harsh realities of the new NBA economy. One team is shedding talent to survive the salary cap. The other is consolidating assets to chase a ring. This intro hook just barely scratches the surface of complexity, the drama, and profound implications of these moves. We have so much more to unpack, from the intricate salary cap mechanics to the on-court tactical fits, to the psychological warfare happening behind closed doors. Stick around, do not go anywhere, because we are about to tear this entire situation apart, piece by piece, in our comprehensive breakdown. Now, let's transition into the deep dive analysis of this incredibly complex situation, starting with the absolute conundrum that is Jonathan Kuminga and the Atlanta Hawks. To truly understand why the Hawks are so terrified right now, we have to do a deep psychological and historical profiling of Jonathan Kuminga's entire career arc. When Kuminga was drafted 7th overall by the Golden State Warriors back in the 2022 NBA draft class timeline, he was billed as the ultimate physical specimen. He was a force of nature, a high-flying, explosive athlete who was supposed to represent the bridge between the Stephen Curry championship era and the next generation of Warriors' dominance. But from the very beginning, there was a profound philosophical clash between Kuminga's raw, isolation-heavy instincts and Steve Kerr's beautiful, intricate, read-and-react motion offense. Kuminga wanted to isolate. He wanted to attack the basket. He wanted the ball in his hands. Kerr wanted him to set screens, cut backdoor, and make split-second passing reads. It was a square peg in a round hole scenario that created years of friction. When the Warriors finally pulled the plug and traded him to Atlanta this past February for Kristaps Porzingis, it was viewed as a liberation for Kuminga. And for a while, as we discussed, it was. In 16 regular season games for the Hawks, Kuminga averaged 12.3 points and 5.3 rebounds in just 22 minutes a night. He looked explosive, he looked engaged, and he helped them secure the 6th seed. But here's where the deep dive reveals the ugly truth beneath the surface statistics. Being a spark plug off the bench in a mid-season honeymoon phase is vastly different from being a foundational $25 million a year pillar of franchise. The Hawks coaching staff and front office have spent the last few months deeply analyzing the tape, and what they see is terrifying them. Kuminga is still, fundamentally, the exact same player he was in Golden State. His spatial awareness on the defensive end still lapses. His three-point shot, while improved, is still not reliable enough to space the floor in high-leverage playoff moments. And most importantly, his offensive processing speed is still a beat too slow for a team that wants to play fast and decisive basketball. Let us look at the Atlanta Hawks cap sheet, because this is where the true horror story lies for their front office. The Hawks are operating in a small to medium market. They do not print money like the Knicks or the Lakers. They have historical trauma from handing out massive, untradeable contracts in the past. Right now, they have significant money tied up in C.J. McCollum, who they view as a stabilizing veteran presence. They have Jalen Johnson, who has blossomed into an absolute revelation and is unquestionably the primary foundational forward of their future. Johnson is everything they hoped Kuminga would be, a versatile playmaker, a strong rebounder, and a highly intelligent defender. Then you have Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who provides essential two-way value. Where does Kuminga fit in this hierarchy? During the playoffs, despite those 2 great games against the Knicks, he was firmly the 4th offensive option. You cannot, under any circumstances in the modern NBA, pay your 4th offensive option $25 million a year. The new collective bargaining agreement was specifically designed to punish this exact type of team-building mistake. If the Hawks pick up Kuminga's $24.3 million team option for the 2026 to 2027 season, they are instantly rocketing toward the luxury tax aprons. Hitting the first apron restricts your ability to take back more money in trades. Hitting the second apron is a death sentence. It freezes your future draft picks, prevents you from using the mid-level exception, and essentially traps your roster in amber. The Hawks look at Jonathan Kuminga, and they do not see a star. They see a fast-track ticket to second apron hell. This is why John Hollinger's valuation of $9.4 million is so significant. It is not just one analyst's opinion. It represents the cold, hard, analytical truth of the league. It is the valuation of a highly athletic bench player who has not proven he can contribute to winning basketball at a starter's level consistently. Kuminga's camp, however, is living in the reality of his draft pedigree. They look at the rising salary cap. They look at the contract handed out to other young players. And they demand a premium based on what Kuminga could become, rather than what he actually is. This disconnect is the source of the Hawks' terror. They are trapped. If they keep him, they ruin their cap sheet. If they decline the option, they lose a prize trade acquisition for nothing, which is a fireable offense for a general manager. Therefore, the only logical, albeit desperate, move is to aggressively shop him right now, hoping some rebuilding team like the Brooklyn Nets or the Sacramento Kings falls in love with his potential and is willing to surrender a draft pick or a cheaper rotational piece to take on a headache of his upcoming contract extension. The Warriors were right about him all along, and the Hawks are finding out the hard way. Now, let us pivot this deep dive to the monumental situation unfolding in South Beach. The Miami Heat acquiring Trae Young is a move that requires us to completely reevaluate the Eastern Conference hierarchy. To appreciate the magnitude of this, we must first examine the absolute tragicomedy of Trae Young's brief stint with the Washington Wizards. After being the face of the Hawks franchise, leading them to the Eastern Conference Finals in 2021, the relationship soured. The Hawks decided to rebuild, shipping Trae to Washington in January of 2026. The plan was for Washington to build around him, but the new NBA lottery structure completely destroyed that calculus. The flattened lottery odds, where bottom three teams only hold a 5.4% chance at the number one pick, meant there was no reward for Washington to tank with Trae Young at the helm. Furthermore, Trae only played 5 games for the Wizards before suffering a quad injury that shut him down for the remainder of the 2025 to 2026 season. He became the ultimate distressed asset, a phenomenally talented superstar trapped on a nowhere team, holding a nuclear weapon in the form of a $48.9 million player option. For months, the Miami Heat were lurking in the shadows, obsessed with the idea of trading for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Pat Riley is a big game hunter. He does not settle for role players. He wants whales. But as the June 23rd deadline approached, the date Trae Young had to exercise his player option to be legally traded, the Heat realized the Bucks were going to demand a king's ransom for Giannis that Miami simply could not meet. They needed a plan B, and they needed it immediately. Enter Trae Young. At first glance, Trae Young and Miami Heat culture seemed like oil and water. Heat culture is built on grueling conditioning, defense-first mentalities, undrafted grinders, and absolute accountability. Trae Young, historically, has been one of the worst defensive players in the NBA, a high-usage offensive savant who rarely exerts effort on the other end of the floor. But Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra are not fools. They are basketball visionaries who understand that the Heat's fatal flaw over the last 5 years has been their agonizing, sputtering half-court offense. The Heat have relied entirely too much on Jimmy Butler, who is aging, and Tyler Herro, who is a fantastic scorer but not an elite table-setting point guard. They have routinely ranked in the bottom third of the league in offensive rating during the regular season, relying on sheer grit and playoff variance to make deep runs. Trae Young fixes that instantly. He is an offensive system unto himself. Even in his last fully healthy season, he averaged over 24 points and 11 assists per game. He is one of the greatest pick-and-roll navigators in the history of the sport. Now, imagine putting Trae Young in a pick-and-roll with Bam Adebayo. Adebayo is one of the most punishing screen setters and versatile role men in the league. For years, Bam has had to create his own offense or rely on dribble handoffs. With Trae Young, Bam will be spoon-fed easy lob dunks, pocket passes, and open mid-range jumpers all night long. The gravity Trae Young commands when he crosses half-court will open up the entire floor for Miami shooters. But what about the defense? This is the genius of the Miami Heat's infrastructure. If there is any coach in the NBA who can hide a defensive liability, it is Eric Spoelstra. Spoelstra built top-tier defenses with Goran Dragic, Tyler Herro, and Duncan Robinson playing heavy minutes. He does it through flawless defensive rotations, aggressive zone schemes, and by funneling the opposition toward Bam Adebayo, who is the ultimate defensive eraser at the rim. Trae Young will not be asked to lock down the opposing team's best player. He will be hidden in the corner. He will be protected by a wall of elite, switchable defenders, and his only mandate on that end of the floor will be to fight over screens and funnel ball handlers into Bam's waiting arms. The Heat are making a calculated gamble that Trae Young's transcendent offensive creation will vastly outweigh his defensive shortcomings when insulated by Heat culture. By surrendering Tyler Herro, Kel'el Ware, and draft capital, Miami is sacrificing depth and youth for undeniable, game-breaking talent. They are pushing their chips all in because they know the Eastern Conference is vulnerable. The Boston Celtics have a target on their back, but a team featuring Trae Young orchestrating the offense and Bam Adebayo anchoring the defense is a terrifying proposition for any opponent in a 7-game series. It is a marriage of necessity for both parties. Trae Young escapes the purgatory of Washington to play for a world-class organization, and the Miami Heat finally acquire the offensive superstar they have coveted for years. As we wrap up this incredibly deep dive, let's move into our outro and reflect on what these two diverging storylines tell us about the current state of the National Basketball Association. Today, we have examined a tale of two entirely different front office philosophies operating under the intense pressure of the modern NBA landscape. On one side, you have the cautionary tale of the Atlanta Hawks. They are a franchise currently defined by hesitation and fear, utterly paralyzed by the financial implications of Jonathan Kuminga's impending contract demands. They represent the chilling effect of the new collective bargaining agreement, proving that potential is no longer enough to secure a massive payday. If you cannot consistently contribute to winning basketball at an elite level, teams are no longer willing to risk their long-term flexibility. No matter how high you can jump or how many points you can score in a first-round playoff series, the Hawks are learning that sometimes the hardest, yet smartest, move is to admit a mistake. Cut your losses and trade a young player before his contract becomes an inescapable anchor dragging the franchise into the depths of the second apron. On the contrasting side, you have the sheer, unadulterated audacity of the Miami Heat. Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra refuse to be passive participants in the NBA offseason. While other teams wait for perfect scenarios that never materialize, the Heat are aggressive opportunists. By pivoting from the unlikely dream of Giannis Antetokounmpo to securing the offensive brilliance of Trae Young, Miami has proven once again why they are a destination franchise. They are betting that their legendary culture, their elite coaching, and their defensive infrastructure can mask Trae Young's flaws while maximizing his world-class playmaking ability. They are not scared of the luxury tax. They are scared of mediocrity. They are terrified of wasting another year of Bam Adebayo's prime with a broken half-court offense. Bringing Trae Young to South Beach is a massive, high-stakes gamble, but it is exactly the kind of calculated risk that wins championships. The juxtaposition of these two situations is truly fascinating. Atlanta is frantically trying to exit the high-stakes poker game, terrified of the next card, while Miami just pushed all their chips to the center of the table with a defiant smile. Now, I want to hear from you, the viewers. What are your thoughts on this absolute madness? Do you think the Atlanta Hawks are making the right decision by running scared from Jonathan Kuminga's contract, or are they giving up on a future superstar way too early? Is John Hollinger's $9 million valuation accurate, or is it incredibly disrespectful? And more importantly, what is your reaction to the Miami Heat landing Trae Young? Can Eric Spoelstra actually build a championship-level defense with Trae on the floor? And does this move make Miami the instant favorites in the Eastern Conference? Drop your hottest takes, your deepest analysis, and your wildest predictions down in the comment section below. I will be reading and responding to as many as I can, because this is a debate that is going to rage on for months. If you enjoyed this incredibly detailed documentary-style deep dive, please do me a massive favor and smash that like button. It helps the channel immensely. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell notifications so you never miss another breaking news breakdown, trade analysis, or in-depth scouting report. The NBA never sleeps, and neither do we. Thank you all so much for watching, for your continued support, and for being the best basketball community on this platform. I will see you all in the next video. Stay safe, stay passionate, and keep loving the game. Peace out.